Hello! Right, I'm going to try not to waffle. I do tend to waffle quite a lot, but we'll see what happens. I wanted to talk about Tiny Joypad today, which is Daniel Champagne's project. He actually owns tinyjoypad.com. I'm sure I'm pronouncing his second name. I'm sure he's French-Canadian, so he probably doesn't pronounce it champagne, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Right, anyway, waffling, straight into the waffle. Daniel Champagne created Tiny Joypad in 2017, I believe, and he had a schematic up and a few games for the AT Tiny 85. And but to my knowledge, he hadn't created an actual gadget at that stage, or maybe a prototype, but I wasn't aware of anybody sort of creating one. I liked his games, and I was looking for a sort of my first fully fledged project. So, you know, where I designed the PCB and the case and everything. So I was looking for something, and it really hit my. I love tiny things, and I love moving sound and stuff. So I couldn't resist it, and I did this in 2018, and I stupidly called it Tiny Joypad because at the time, there wasn't one, and subsequently a lot of people have sort of come up with their own versions of Tiny Joypad, and they've had the good sense to call them something else, because Daniel Champagne has his own version now, which he sort of finally created one, and so anyway, it's just the naming of this thing is it really shouldn't be called Tiny Joypad, but it's a bit late now. Sorry Daniel. Anyway, I've never really explained too much about this. I mean, I did some videos on how to solder it up on the off chance that I put all my files up on Hackaday.io on the off chance that somebody wanted to make one, and as far as I know, there's zero. There's like literally nobody made one. I don't know. There's just I thought it would have been a fairly easy anyway. Whatever. And people just like to make their own stuff, I guess. But yeah, the reason I'm talking about this is because I've decided to make a few of them for Tindy. Stick them up on Tindy, and not because I actually think anybody is going to buy one. I just don't care whether you buy one or not. But I just think it was something that I wanted to do, and I'm very much into completing things. I've got to get to the end. I've got to 100% it. Anyway, so I'm going to stick them on Tindy. The other reason I'm waffling about this is that I'm making one of these for a friend at work, and I thought rather than trying to explain at work like how it works, I decided to do this video. So can I do the top-down view and then just explain a couple of things about it? It's not very complicated. So anyway, like and subscribe. No, buy one on Tindy. No, I don't honestly care. I haven't even got them on Tindy yet. Well, that's another point. One of the problems with these sort of projects, with the AT Tinies, is that they've been caught up in the supply issues with electronic components. So you can't buy AT Tinies at all. Well, you can, that's an exaggeration. You can buy them. You can buy them on eBay, and the prices are starting to go up quite dramatically, or you can salvage them from old projects like the Digispark USB thing, so, which I've actually desoldered a couple of AT Tiny 85s off them. So you can get them if you're prepared to pay £3 a pop. Something came through the post for me today, which was this, which I feel a little bit guilty about buying it, because this is 100 of the last AT Tiny 85s. Evil. Dr. Evil laugh. This is one of the last, it's 180 Tiny 85s, and at the time when I bought them there was literally 400 left. The reason that nobody bought them, I think, is because they were oh man, it's a whole different thing, but there was these are a particular version which is undocumented, which means they're possibly automotive, or I've got a friend who said they think they're military, which I don't know, it tickles my fancy that it might possibly be military, but I think that's the reason that nobody bought them, because they didn't know what they were. Because the SF version is the AT Tiny 85-20 SF, which is undocumented as far as I know. And all it is, I think, is it's just a high temperature variant. I think it runs at 125 degrees C, which is absolutely mad. It's like it could be on fire and still work. Unbelievable. So yeah, there is something a bit weird about them, but I tested them out before I bought them and they work absolutely fine. But anyway, long story short, so it's too late for that now. So anyway, I'm going to show anybody who's interested the ins and outs of this thing, which I will be selling a couple on Tindy for cost, because I've got the 80 Tinies now. I'm also going to do another project which will be an 80 Tiny project, which is going to be the final time that I ever touch them, because they're a little bit underpowered, which is the whole point. So this is the my version of the 80 of the Tiny Joypad. Never gave it I call it Tiny Joypad, but really you should have called it something else. It did have a couple of unique features that, I'm not saying I was the first, obviously, be ridiculous, I invented game cartridges. that was me. No, I don't think anybody had done 80 Tiny cartridges at the time. Somebody has done them subsequently. In fact, Daniel's got cartridges in his version now, but nobody had done them at the time anyway. Rotating screen, I quite like that. I thought that was cool. Nobody has bothered to do that as far as I know. It does mess with Daniel's code. You do have to sort of change his code a little bit to get it to work on some of the games, but it's I preferred it that way. Daniel has a different way of doing things, but that was my take on it, and I was happy that I'd sort of actually come up with something a little bit new, just a slightly bit new. Obviously the main thing is Daniel's, really. It's Daniel's schematic and Daniel's games, which are without those it'd be just a brick. So let's not try and, anyway, I was happy to add a couple of things though. So you just put the game cartridges in. There's only one way you can get them in, obviously. That's designed to be idiot proof. So you just push them in. There's tiny little claw grooves. Break my nails. Yeah, it's not perfect. I wanted to do at the time I wanted to do the drop it in from the top cartridge, but I couldn't think of a sort of way to do the connectors, and Daniel's done them better, I think, now. He has just a pop them in sort of Game Boy style cartridge, but anyway, it was a kind of a first take on it. So you just pop the cartridge in. It's color coded, so reds are portrait. Yeah, you get it in. Reds are portrait. Blues are landscape. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong because you can just turn it off, change it around. So this is Tiny Bomber, and switch it on. It's a fun little game, this. Just plant your bomb. Whoop. Should probably try and get that a bit closer. Plant your bomb. Run away. And then timing, the timing, oh god, I can't really play at this angle, but you obviously got to kill the enemies, and then you go on to the next screen, or it resets. Yeah, there's a slightly different screen. There's Tiny Bomber. I'm not going to go through all the games, as I did 4 of them, and when I do the Tindy version, I might do a couple more. I'm not sure. It's difficult to say because 80 tiny chips, these things are actually getting harder to come by, so I feel like a bit guilty, like wasting, in a sense, kind of wasting 6 of them, really. But I suppose they're there to be used, so I might end up doing a 6 of the best sort of thing. And they might not all be Daniel's games, actually, because I do like some of Andy's games. I've forgotten his name. Andy. He does good games anyway. He did Frogger and a few other games. The only other feature that I wanted to show on here, which I never explained, was the battery compartment, where you get a special tool, which I know it looks like a paperclip, but this will be included in the kit. You should actually grab both corners at the same time, but I'm gonna bodge it a bit just to get the battery out. Look at that. That was genius. That was a piece of genius. That was a piece of genius, that design. Oh yeah. Nobody's done that, have they? Anyway, I'll shut up. So that's the Tiny Joypad, my version of it, and I'll be giving one of these to a friend at work, so that's why I kind of done this, and the Tindy thing. And I am going to do one final revision of this. I'm not going to explain what I'm going to do. It's going to be a mystery, but I think it's going to be pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. I think it's gonna dump on everybody. Everybody's ever made one of these things. And then that'll be it. And then you just drop the mic and you walk away.